We settled in and heard two sharp whistles that signaled our departure. With a rumble of boilers and a crack of ice, we began our expedition into the uncharted peril of the Arctic. I could not help but wonder whether we would find the North Pole at long last, and perhaps even make history. I turned the oil lamps down low and climbed into bed, but it was a long time before I could fall into sleep. Now, we make our let's groom him. This is going to be a difficult journey for him, so let's just groom him. We stopped at the nearby bay of Vergohamna to add a large tethered balloon to our convoy to be used for meteorological readings and short explorations. A lone artificer manned the small hangar that jutted up from the icy beach and glared at the icewalker. What a vulgar contraption. I think it quite marvelous. Do you? He gave me an appraising look. I am Salomon Auguste André. I butchered that horribly. I proposed that we take my balloon all the way to the North Pole, but the council requisitioned it as mere support and ordered me to stay behind. Did you design the balloon yourself? I asked, intrigued. Of course, he narrowed his eyes. Why? What have you heard? I was only curious. Let this satisfy your curiosity, he said. I had my balloon manufactured privately without guild approval, because they are all old-fashioned has-beens. He ground his teeth. They've had it out for me ever since. I understood his frustration if what he said was true. Still, I wanted no part of internal artificer politics. Then Monsieur Jokinen appeared at my side and pulled me back to the icewalker with only a tight-lipped look at Monsieur André. Let's see. Surely we should take every engineer we can, I asked, glancing cautiously at the icewalker. Too many chefs can ruin a souffle, passe-partout, Monsieur Jokinen replied. I think attempting a French idiom. And Monsieur André is hardly sound. I'd say even he was obsessed. Pole mad. He's mad about those poles. I fear my master is as well. Oh, I remarked, but it was useless to complain. We were set up on our fateful course. Relations with Fog have deteriorated slightly by showing concern for him, apparently. We better groom him. Yes. You 88% comfortable, apparently. At breakfast, Monsieur Jokinen introduced us to our fellow expeditionists. I paid particular attention to... I am hesitant to pick this one just because of the name. I would do better with this one. I'm curious about the lead research artificer. Reja Jeho. Or Yeho, or Reja, I don't know. Reja Jeho. The lead research artificer of the expedition, who was responsible for various readings and experiments. She observed my attentions and remarked to the room, "Why are we taking on guests instead of more scientists?" We are passengers, paying ones, I emphasized. Monsieur Jokinen clapped me on the shoulder. Quite right. Put your claws away, Reja. These two paid the cost of hiring Mazinski and his Pomar hunters. The artificers had made a good deal for my master, it seemed. Still, the answer seemed to mollify. Demoiselle Jehu, enough to attempt further conversation. Where are you from? It turned out Demoiselle Jehu was one of only 7 Sami, or Sami, I don't know, Sami members of a tribe that resides above the Arctic Circle, who had joined the Artificers Guild in its many hundreds of years of operation. Your people must be proud then. My people still believe in witchcraft, she shrugged, attempting nonchalance badly. I have chosen science over my so-called culture. Surely all cultures have value, I asked. You live amongst the subtleties of reindeer for 20 years with a chemist's brain. She replied, clearly rattled by my question. You will see just how much culture is laziness, repetition, and lip service. Okay. I am French, mademoiselle. I believe in culture. Demoiselle Jehu looked away. I did what I had to do. What is your specialization? I asked, hoping to steer the conversation into less troubled waters. Her stark features lit up. Marine biology. She began to tell me about the breeding habits of the Arctic tern, and what can only be described as a munificence. I don't know, that just sounds weird. Of detail. Luckily, Monsieur Jacquemin swooped in to distract her, allowing me to make my escape. I guess we have no choice but to converse with Monsieur Jacquemin. Why, Passepartout, it's good to see you. What about the North Pole? No one has ever set foot at the pole. Can you imagine? Let's talk about going someplace. I don't know what this place is. Irkutsk. Seems unlikely to me, but answer. You are enjoying the I hope. It is a fast machine. Speed is not everything. Dexterity now, there is a measure. Where would this place be going? Gastown, I guess. Maybe, but some buyers will pay well for evening jackets from Gastown. What about Honolulu? Oh, I should have, no. Should have asked about going to Iceland. Halfway through the afternoon, we fetched up at an icy cliff far too sheer to be essayed by the icewalker skis. Will we tunnel through it? I asked aloud, peering out from the thick glass window of the bridge. Monsieur Jacquemin cast me a look full of mischief and pulled a lever of gleaming wood. We lurched down with a mechanical hiss, and the engines hummed at a higher pitch. I kept my face to the glass. Out of the window, I saw the mechanical skis bend and articulate. They must have had hidden joints, forming themselves into sharp claws which dug into the pack ice. Seems weird. We scuttled up the ice face. There was no other word to describe it. The icewalker swung and hissed and spewed steam in great shrieking gouts, but we made it up in less than 5 minutes. Next time, Monsieur Jacquemin put in jovially, buckle up. I was, in the end, grateful for the artificer's foresight in designing such a contraption. Now that the gut-wrenching terror had passed, it seemed like quite a jolly adventure. Well, now this journey is proving more tiring than I expected. We better groom him. Groom him like a monkey. 78. That's getting a little low. The coast of Spitzbergen disappeared in our wake. There was no land between here and the pole, or none that had been discovered. It was entirely possible that there was nothing but frozen ocean and endless sky ahead. Let's see. It's night in the Arctic, 4-month-long night. I walked the open balcony and watched the... let's do that one. I walked to the open balcony and watched for wildlife, spotting a few ringed seals cavorting playfully on a nearby ice floe. In the water, there were the dark shapes of circling killer whales. The further we moved away from land, the more alone we would be. It was quiet and still, And still, it was quiet and still, beautiful in a spare, brutal sort of way. It was as though I could look out upon the vista and unmoor myself, let myself melt and drift and shiver into its wide spaces. Behind us are the little clustered lights of civilization, and only unrelieved whiteness lies ahead. And so the journey continues. Well, at least we got him back up to 78. I was heating Monsieur Fogg's shaving water to a precise degree when I heard a long trumpet blast and the sound of many boots thumping in the corridor. I gave Monsieur Fogg a beseeching look, and he scratched his chin pointedly before tightening his lips. "Oh, very well, Passepartout," he said. "Go investigate." I followed the sound of boots to a brightly lit room at the very aft of the ship. Monsieur Mzinsky was shouting commands to his group of Pomor hunters, but paused to toss a glare in my direction. "What are you doing here, civilian?" "What is going on?" I demanded. Monsieur Mzinsky glanced at a panel of furiously blinking lights and sighed. "It is too late." He pushed me aside and sealed the bulkhead behind me with a grunt. A moment later, the floor beneath my feet began to hum. What is happening?" I asked plaintively. Without much hope of reply, the Pomor huntsman pulled me into the chair next to him and buckled me in place with what I can only describe as unnecessary viciousness. I remained silent, in awareness that I was intruding. All the hunters were warmly outfitted, heavily armed and grim-faced. The hum reached a crescendo, and there was a stomach-churning wrench as the room detached from the icewalker and pitched into the air. It was a gyrocopter masquerading as a ready room. I leaned towards the observation windows. A slash of pale sky, roiling ice-sharded ocean. Was that Zutalos? "There she blows!" Monsieur Mzinsky pointed and elbowed me in the side. "Isn't that what you English say when you spot a whale?" "Are we going to hunt a whale?" I goggled at the enormous creature visible against the churning water. "That whale?" One of Monsieur Mzinsky's hunters shouted a phrase in Russian, and there was a scramble. A hunter opened a hatch in the ceiling and clambered up to man the mounted harpoon. Another shouted out the direction and heading of the whale to the pilot. "What can I do to help?" I asked, gathering my courage. "Nothing," Monsieur Mzinsky grumbled. "Now shut up and stay out of the way." I could see... I could see the pilot trying to steady us in the strong winds, sweat pouring down her face despite the chill. There was the hiss of a harpoon launch and a shout of triumph? Our craft shuddered and swung. The instruments span wildly. The harpooner had hit home. A thick rope cable connected us to our quarry. It thrashed in pain, jerking us along with it as its blood darkened the water. I figured bad stuff would happen if I had picked with shouted in horror. Given that we're in the Arctic, I don't think we need to deal with bad stuff happening. Each keening cry felt like a wave of ice water, and I shivered at the brutality of it. The hunters, if anything, looked grimmer than ever, and tightened their buckles. Another harpoon hiss, a roar of pain, and suddenly we were not simply flung, but tumbling through the sky. I braced my feet against the chair legs and put my head between my legs, preparing for a crash landing. Monsieur Mzinsky was shouting commands at his team of hunters. A scream penetrated through my haze of dizziness, and I looked up in time to see one of the harpooners miss his grip and fall away. His face, oh, how I wish I had not seen it. It burns in my memory, his ice-rhymed terror sharp and sour as my own. I heard Monsieur Mizinski curse and try to unbuckle his belt, his eyes on the ceiling hatch. Great. This was a bad idea, I know. I lunged for the ladder first, and he was so astonished that he did not pull me back till it was too late. He was needed below to organize and command. I had acted it out of pure practicality. I could almost hear my dear maman's voice in my head, lamenting my flair for the dramatic. The Arctic wind burned my cheeks, and the salt spray from the sea was quickly soaking my mittens. I clung to the harpoon and swung it to aim at the whale. Taking the time to steady myself against the gyrocopter's pitching, the harpoon flew forth, striking the beast in its very vitals. Blood gushed out in great gouts. It keened once more and rolled over. The harpoon cable went taut, and there was a terrific jerk. As though through smoked glass or a smeared camera lens, I saw my mittened hand slip on the lever. I felt rather than heard a scream tear itself out of my throat as I plummeted through the air into the dark, freezing ocean below. Oh my god, this is it. This is the end of Passepartout. Or maybe he survived. He survived to groom Monsieur Fogg. So. Oh my god, Cora. She needed to be in my lap, but then she started chewing on my earphone wires. You goat-faced idiot, Monsieur Mizinski shouted as I blinked my eyes open. I was only going to close the hatch. There was no need to harpoon the beast again. Oh, awesome. Ah, said I, before casting up my accounts in a nearby basin. You very nearly killed yourself is what you did, bloody civilian. His cheeks purpled and puffed out. Next time, leave the harpooning to the harpooners. Oui, monsieur. I huddled deeper into the covers, feeling quite chastised. Monsieur Mizinski cursed a filthy string. Then he shook my hand. Don't get any ideas, he added before sweeping out of the room. I still think you are an idiot. I fought the tiredness and looked around. I thought I saw my master's still drawn face, but I was sound asleep before I could even call out. The icewalker, I noted, was moving once more. Well, we were not heroically saving the day. A set of mechanical pinchers emerged from the back of the icewalker, grabbed up the whale's carcass from the water, and pulled it into its gaping maw. The artificers told me that it would be processed for fuel on our journey ever north. I did not wish to subject myself to the gruesome sights and sounds that would no doubt ensue, and so took myself to the kitchens, where I made fast friends with the cook, Monsieur Beccar, or Becquer, whatever. I rather think the poor fellow was quite pleased to have someone who was not obsessed with steam turbines or whale innards to speak with, and I, my friends, am not fool enough to spurn the friendship of a cook. Sounds quite reasonable. Excuse me. Monsieur Fogg had managed to find himself a whist partner from amongst the artificers' ranks. It was an arcane talent of his, and one I greatly envied. If only I could so easily find contentment, mes amis. The fellow in question was a youth of barely 20, handsome enough, in a pallid-eyed sort of mode, and apparently some sort of meteorological prodigy. I wished him joy of partnering with my master and took myself off for a turn about the decks, and later a little drink at the illicit still in the cargo hold. Très amusant. Well, we actually got him up to 81. Ah, there you are, Passepartout. Monsieur Jaconin flashed me a bright smile. Would you like to come up in the balloon with me this afternoon? We need some meteorological readings, but we could make a picnic of it. I agreed fervently, eager to escape the monotony. An hour later, we were climbing the swinging rope ladder up to the tethered balloon. I shivered and resisted the urge to look down. We were a long way up, and I could not help but recall my recent terrifying fall from the whale hunter's gyrocopter. Monsieur Jaconin pulled himself into the gondola and extended a hand. I let him help me up and managed to catch my knee on the edge of his long coat and tumbled us together in a heap. I used to be an acrobat, I remarked weakly. I am sure it is the cold lessening your talents, he replied. He laughed as we picked ourselves up and cast me a look under his lashes. Call me Vidi, eh? Surely we know each other that well by now. Oh my, is there a chance for romance in the Arctic? He excused himself to cast off and set up the instruments. In the meanwhile, I set out the lunch of whale meat and oatmeal as prettily as I could, given the circumstances. I even managed to scrounge up a little tallow candle for a touch of... Oh, this is... Ooh, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? I don't know. Let's keep it professional. For a touch of civilization. Then I went up to the observation deck and joined Vidi at the railing. The icewalker was still visible, a hulking shape belching dark smoke into the misty white. We were suspended in an endless sky, in a moment of calmness. Thank you, I murmured quietly. Vidi cast me an almost shy smile, and we ducked back down into the warmth for an amiable lunch. Everyone's gonna get laid in the Arctic, apparently, except for Passepartout, because I did not choose that option. Today, the Icewalker's pilot threw a cloudberry pie at the chief navigator's face at lunch. No, this is no euphemism, though I did make few arch remarks about lovers' quarrels to my dining companions. Alas, apparently the pilot and chief navigator are merely friends. Though in this tiny boat of ours, any association grows terribly magnified, I am finding. I eavesdropped upon their argument shamelessly. The crux of the matter seemed to be that we were a few degrees off course, and they each blamed the other. Are we hopelessly lost? I stood up unsteadily. Will we perish? The pilot gave me a pitying look. No, we have plenty of fuel, and it is easily enough corrected. The chief navigator threw a set of charts at the pilot. Read them. Double check if you like. I gave you the correct heading. And I followed your instructions perfectly. The pilot let the papers fall to the floor. Then how did we end up off course? The navigator crossed her arms. Answer me that. Uh-oh. Perhaps it was sabotage. There was a horrible silence after my suggestion, and I resisted the urge to shuffle my feet. We are the only ones here, the pilot said slowly. You think one of us did it? Oh, I don't know, I shrugged. It's a possibility. Let us not point fingers, the chief navigator declared, extending her hand in a gesture of reconciliation. The pilot shook it. Let us keep our wits about us, she added, and move forward. God, if I had chosen the other option, would this entire expedition become sabotage and like everyone dies? Today, I investigated our unplanned detour, but learned little of any value. The navigational charts were not guarded or locked away, and the various instruments used for the purpose so delicate and complex that any one of them could easily malfunction. I bribed an apprentice navigator to keep his eye out for anything unusual, trying to shake the feeling that I had just thrown my money down a lightless, echoing well. Probably. Hey, up to 87. Let's keep it up, right? Haha, we are entertaining. An inconsequential sort of day. One of the artificers accidentally released a pack of little spider-like automatons, and the entire lower deck had to be evacuated. We made progress across the ice, though I do not know how one can tell. We're almost there. I guess we're gonna talk to Madame Jehou. You, the interloper. What about the North Pole? You cannot rely on compasses near the pole. Equipment must be more sophisticated. Will we ever go to Honolulu? Let's say that you can pick up harmonicas in Honolulu. Extremely valuable in... Oh, yes. Let's say that the only market in Reykjavik has gone bankrupt now anyway. I despise these wastes. I also, madame. They are cruel and desolate. I don't mind that, but they are undefended, weak. What about the North Pole? I have nothing to say. I don't know. Omsk? Where's Omsk? Let's just say that some buyers will pay well for amethyst from Omsk. Yokohama. Talk a lot, don't you? Well, hopefully we have a route to go to from here. Today, I paid a visit to the cook, Monsieur Bakur, who is in a foul mood. Are you here to complain about the salty porridge? He cast a grim look at an already quivering apprentice. Get in line. Just to say hello, I told him brightly, and his expression relaxed. He fetched me a piece of whale meat cured with cloudberries, a new recipe he was experimenting with. I assured him it was wonderful, and ate every last mouthful in front of him to prove my point. Do not say I am not committed to my endeavors, however trifling. Well, we might as well help with morale on this, walking boat, right? Oh no. Disaster has struck. So cold, the icewalker has been destroyed. Monsieur Fogg is still alive, but only barely. We have little hope of rescue and few supplies, and he's down to 45 after I had him up to 95. It seems certain we will die here. Only, not yet. There is too much to do. Relations with Fogg have strengthened slightly. So, we're just hanging out here. Passepartout, perhaps you can think of something? Sure, we'll groom him. We have nothing to groom him with, so we're just licking his hair. We're licking his mustache. I have gained a little warmth in my fingers by putting them into compacted snow enough to write. On the icewalker, nobody knows what happened. Disaster struck in the middle of the night. The Pomor crew suspect vengeful whales. The artificers blame boiler explosions. I cannot help but remember Monsieur André's bitterness. What does it matter? The artificers blame boiler explosions and cascade reactions. The Pomor crew suspect vengeful whales and bloodied spirits. The endless, pointless debate on the matter is distracting, though heaven knows we need distractions. Monsieur Fogg is severely hurt. His torso has been skewered by a piece of metal debris. I have bandaged it up as best I could. He is assiduous and pretending all is well. I have tried my best to pretend also, though I do not know how long it can last. I can write no more. Too cold. Well, we're apparently just hanging out on the ice, not moving. So, let's, groom him. Just a little warmth, if you would. Madame Jehou glared up into the sky, muttered, "Bugger this," strapped on her snowshoes and began walking out into the whiteness. I called after her, but she did not look back. I looked around at the thinned, ice-rimed faces of the other survivors and wondered how long it would be before another one of us gave up. Simply gave up and walked out into the snow. I swore it would not be me, and held that promise close to my chest, and fooled myself that it warmed me. I looked down at my master's too pale and shivering form and tried desperately to think of how I could help him. The apprentice navigator I had once bribed beckoned me closer, pressing a vial of thick tonic into my hands. "It will help your master heal," he said. "Take it." "Thank you," I said fervently, too desperate to look a gift horse in the tonic. It seemed kindness was to be found even at the edges of the world, past the point of human endurance. This is more exhausting than I anticipated, being skewered by some metal debris. Geez, that just keeps going down. The sky was ablaze when I awoke, spectacular streamers of emerald green and bruised purple and flush pink. The aurora borealis, a nearby artificer whispered in awe. "It is magnificent." It seemed to me as though the sky itself was singing us its goodbye, painted in coruscating colors across the horizon. It seems that the prospect of death makes me sentimental. Well, I wonder what's gonna happen. We're just hanging out here, not going anywhere. I no longer truly remember what it is like to be warm. Perhaps I've never truly been so. The memories seem so fragile. They spin away like dust, like snow. There has only ever been this. Cold that has not enough mercy to numb. Wind that howls like a pack of wolves on the hunt. Once more I sought to aid my master. Let's approach the cook. I approached the cook for supplies, keenly aware that I was hardly the first to do so. Monsieur Becqueux saw something in my face that caused him to hand me a day's ration of cured whale, an unexpected, even unbelievable bounty. I had to blink away tears, and he very kindly pretended that he did not see them. I fed each strip to my master carefully, reverently, watching his color slowly return as he chewed. Well, I guess our bribing and such has fortunately kept Monsieur Fogg alive through this, dying on the ice. I thought of Maman today. Her smile in the flickering lamplight as she tucked me into bed, the brush of her lips against my temple. I wonder what she would do, tossed out into the stark and barren landscape. Would she start to walk in any direction her feet should lead? Would she find water and try to swim? Mamam, if by some strange and wild chance you should come to read this. Think of me in Paris, a dappled late afternoon by the Seine, smoking gallois, I don't know, and winking at pretty tourists. Think of me with love, as I am thinking of you now in this endless Arctic night. Well, now this journey is more tiring than I expected. We will continue to groom him with our tongue. Monsieur Fogg nearly lost 3 toes to frostbite. I have not been careful enough. I was not conscientious enough. Medic caught it in time, and he will not lose them. Small victories, but I will take them. Each and every one. While I still had strength, I was determined to provide succor to Monsieur Fogg. I asked Monsieur Mazinski to help me, and he offered me a thick fur from the Pomor bags. "Keep Fogg warm," he said roughly. "It will help." "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you." He gave me a short nod, and I stumbled back to our makeshift camp to tend my master. Well, this is a bit of an ordeal to try to keep him alive. But we're surviving so far. Monsieur Fogg and I have been sleeping curled against each other since the disaster. I tried desperately to press some small warmth into his body. He is unconscious and then delirious. His lucid moments only underscore the wrongness of his delirium. If we survive, I will be satisfied only to see him raise his left eyebrow and comment upon the temperature of the tea. I think this is it? We're gonna find out if we're gonna survive or die. There is a strange black streak across the horizon. I can hear the others murmur. An airship, an airship! But I do not believe them, I cannot. Collective hallucination from people driven beyond hope, beyond reason, beyond bearing. I do not truly believe until I see Madame Jehot standing on the deck. Need a ride, she shouts, her voice familiar and mocking. And I turn to Monsieur Fogg and smile. We are saved. Oh, now we're traveling by... Where did this airship come from? How did she find it? And we are getting to the North Pole after all. So, to say what happened then, the injured, Monsieur Fogg included, were whisked away by the medics. We were wrapped in blankets with brisk efficiency, given steaming cups of broth. Madame Jehot stood with an older man in a blue Sami Gakti, and reindeer fur coat, their silhouettes framed by the observation windows. How did you find this airship? I asked. The man made a disgusted sound. If Reja had done her duty correctly, you would not be here. Duty? What duty? I looked between them, feeling a deep sense of unease. I was supposed to make sure that the expedition did not make it to the North Pole, Madame Jehot responded evenly, fingering her copper lily brooch. Sorry. I adjusted the instruments to push us off course, but I had nothing to do with the wreck. Why would you betray the artificers? She looked uncomfortable. I have other allegiances that come first, to my people and family. All of which is moot, Jehot, the man interjected, as you have failed resoundingly. I could not let them die out there, she replied, sounding uncharacteristically chastened. Whatever. And I applaud that decision, madame. I declared weakly as I cast a glare at the older man, and Madame Jehot laughed desultorily. Passepartout, she stiffened. This is my father, Ivor Jehot. Sami, representative to the Council of Circumpolar Northern Peoples. Madame Jehot looked out of the window and took a breath. We have arrived. I looked out the window. A city rose up out of the pale mist and ice, an alchemical dream of glass and copper and bone. Here and there, impossibly lush tangles of trees and shrubs grew under domes of glittering ice-rimed glass. Interconnected tents of reindeer skin and carved whalebone lined snow-packed streets. Frozen rivers were arched with delicate bridges of copper and zinc. The heart of the city, a vast towering structure of steam boilers and copper pipes. Welcome to the North Pole, Madame Jehot said, subdued. To the sacred city of Quasutuk. No, wait. Quasutuk. Okay, just Quasutuk. And, well, sacred city in the North Pole. How fascinating. I think that'll be it for now.